time with anyone at any point. So very disappointing. But hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday Club. As you can see, we're quite a full house tonight. Just expecting Pallavi Ghosh to come in. And today's topic is something that I think we all feel really passionate about is the situation that arose with the children in Jammu as well as in Muzaffarnagar and the kind of corporal punishment that they received and the reasons for that punishment and the fact that this was recorded, circulated, and highlights certain aspects in society that we all need to pay more attention to more closely, as well as also the kind of difference in the outrage and the response that these two incidents elicited. Having said that, I think both were equally condemnable. There are different reasons for each one, and we'll get into that. But let's just dive right straight into it. Suhel, Seth, you feel very passionately about this.
No, I don't think the word is passionately. I feel
Hmm.
very strongly about this. And I feel strongly because this is not something that should happen in any society that has even an iota of civility. A, B. This is not the country I want to raise my daughter in or anyone's child in. This is not the country where you send your children to school so that they are vilified, beaten up, that too by a school teacher. In the good old days when students were ragged, parents would be, very upset and all. Here, the tragedy is the school teachers doing this in the name of religion. I mean, what kind of a country do we want to build? These are the people who will come out of school scarred for life. Their parents will become, to my mind, great proponents, if need be, not just of violence, but of sectarian hatred. This isn't what we want. This isn't the country that we have. With all the good that's going on, and there's a lot of good going on. I've just finished attending 3 days of the B20. It's amazing what industry and government as partners are doing. It's amazing what the corporate world is doing for civil society through NGOs, through CSR. And smack in the middle, when we are building a great narrative for brand India, for each of our citizens, you have this happening in a school, egged on by a goddamn teacher. That woman should be hanged. She has no business to be a teacher. Forget teacher. She's not human. For her inhumanity alone, this woman should never be returning to a classroom or to civil society. Because what are you doing? You know something? This is worse than death because you are tinkering with people's minds. Teachers have hit students. They have. There has been corporal punishment. I went to a boarding school. Was I not caned? Of course, I was caned, but that was for indiscipline. I wasn't caned because I was a Hindu or a Muslim. I was caned because what I did was not affair with the school's curriculum, rules, the laws. You cannot have a situation like this, Advaita, and no amount of whataboutery justifies this. If it's happened in Jammu, if it's happened in Muzaffarnagar, it's happened in Timbuktu, it happened in any other goddamn country, it must be roundly condemned. It has to have the condemnation of right thinking, right minded individuals. Because what we're then doing is we're going down a deep, deeply dangerous path from which we will never return. It is that young boy, 8 years old. What do you think he'll go back to? You want to move him out of that school? What about his friends? What about his social life? What about his circle? What about people he wants to, hang out with? Is this what you want? Now, some idiots will say, oh, but when it used to happen to us, it always happened. But that doesn't mean that you justify it. And let me tell you one last thing. This video has gone viral. You think children aren't seeing it with all the access that they have to mobile devices? You think parents in other places are not seeing it? You think teachers are not seeing it? I mean, what on earth are we doing? I'm glad that Yogi Adityanath has shut the school down, but that's not the solution. You can't throw the baby with the bathwater. The solution must be in making sure that you create demonstrable deterrent examples out of that Tripti Tyagi, that no teacher in India ever discriminates in a classroom on the basis of religion and then encourages other students who have no role to play to walk up and slap another student. What kind of divisiveness are we promoting? It's bizarre.
Unmute yourself.
It's bizarre, and it's going to be very scarring for that child, because it's things that get onto the net in the internet and go viral, they live forever. So there's a very good chance that when he's older, when he's in his teens, a little more aware, this is going to come back to him. And it's just awful what he has coming ahead of him when something like this happens. Professor, you are of course a teacher, and you understand this world, you understand the dynamics of this world. Where you teach older students, college going, postgraduates. This is of course a child, very impressionable. What do you make of this particular situation? I also want to point out, in the interest of full information, that it is the father has said that he did tell the mother to discipline the child, and this had his approval. However, he wanted her to discipline him, not other children to kind of line up and slap him the way they did.
Uh, Advaita, without taking away anything from what Suhel said, let me tell you this. Both in the Jammu case and in the Muzaffarnagar case, I think this news, this incident, this abomination is making more waves outside Muzaffarnagar and outside Jammu than they are doing in the places of their origin. And there's a reason for it. Let me first come to Jammu because this is closer home. This incident hasn't taken place in Jammu. It's basically part of Jammu province, very far from Jammu, 200 kilometers away, in the hills, in a place called Bani. Now, Bani is that part of Jammu where the hilly part of Jammu, Hindu Muslims live together. Now, what the student did was to write Jai Shri Ram on the board, which in itself was not an innocent act because Jai Shri Ram has political and indeed, provocative connotations for a lot of people. Now, that was surprising because this is something that you don't see in Jammu. Students are very differential towards their teachers. I know because I have done, as part of administration, I have been part of a university administration which has delayed bringing out results, and students basically don't tell you a thing in Jammu. So doing this was abnormal, but what the teachers did later on was not just horrific, that was also abnormal. If they had wanted to discipline the child, all they needed to do was to call the father, and the father would have beaten the child in front of them. The fact that they did so was gross foolishness on their part. They broke all rules, all regulatory norms. Things got out of hand. It was brutally beaten. And now the principal as well as the teacher are in trouble. And the matter, in a sense, is being sorted out. People on the ground did not look at it communally. They wanted discipline to be restored to that particular school. So that will be handled. We'll know in a couple of days what exactly transpired. But as I said, it's making far more waves in social media outside Jammu than within Jammu. For the Muzaffarnagar case, I'll also say the same thing. I have students, former students, and friends in Muzaffarnagar. Now, this school is a private school, I believe, run by the Tyagi lady herself. And when it comes to that private schools, particularly in Western UP, I think the latest teaching methods, how to deal with students and child psychology, is by no means the vogue out there. It's a rough and ready school where crude words are routinely spoken by the teacher involved. For years, nobody took offense, and suddenly you had this particular thing which went viral, which brought forth the deep rot that existed within the school. But I mean, the kind of communal flavor it has acquired is also something that my friends in Muzaffarnagar say need not have been. In fact, the local community is angry that what should have been kept at home, in a sense, has got out. But having come out, it is clear what was going on in that school was clearly unacceptable. It was abominable, and therefore this has had consequences. Suhel tells us the school has been shut down, and I'm not surprised at all. Given the magnitude of what has happened, and given the bad press that it has received, that was the only way to go. But what was so artificial about this is that the usual suspects on social media said, look, this is what India has become. And look, we've seen worse things. We know worse things have happened. And by default, in fact, by reflex action, those who basically are anti this particular woke crowd indulge in whataboutery, which of course does not help events at all. You see, the Jammu incident is not a reply to the Muzaffarnagar incident. They are both in their own places abominable incidents, and action has to be taken, and action in a sense is being taken. I think this will have a salutary effect on other schools where professionalism is not the norm, where beating up children is the norm, and basically not going by any rules is the norm. I think it's going to have a salutary effect on these particular institutions. That's the only thing that I see coming out of this particular incident.
Sandeep, Professor saying that Jai Shri Ram is a provocative statement, and why was it written on the board, and that would elicit kids write all kinds of things on the blackboard, right? It wasn't anything vulgar, it wasn't anything obscene, it wasn't anything that was targeting any other kid. So, should that have been enough to merit that kind of thrashing?
See, Advaita, I see this incident in a much larger context. To reiterate, I will not indulge in any kind of whataboutery, and what Suhel said, that this has to be unequivocally condemned, and so did Professor Sen. But what I see in these are symptomatic, these are like a tip of iceberg. You see, it is not a question of every student who gets thrashed, but if this kind of prejudice percolates into homes or into classrooms, then we have a much larger problem. And that is something which concerns me. See, ultimately, no one is insulated. These teachers, the study woman could be an extreme case, but no teacher, no students are totally insulated from what's happening around in society. So, if there is this kind of sectarian mindset which is penetrating the school or the environment, school or education environment, that is the matter of worry. So the answer to my mind is, while this particular incident has to be condemned, this particular teacher has to be taken to task and made an example out of, but I think we must do something more to see that the schools are insulated. School or even children, to the extent possible, they are insulated from this sort of influence. Otherwise, we criticize what's happening in America in terms of shootings in schools or targeting schools. We might get into that kind of a scenario, and that is worrying. And so, if the check has to be at a much more basic level, and if we cannot let this kind of a venom penetrate the youngsters. I always, I think in this program, I've cited somewhat unrelated this whole episode. I remember anecdote Mr. Jane Dixit that once said on television, a famous Jane Dixit, who was the National Security Advisor and diplomat.
Sandeep, if I can come in, there's a lot of static. Can you rejoin us? Because it's hard to hear you. So if you can just come back. Yeah, thanks. Pallavi, thanks for joining us. I don't know, did you forget that you were joining us? Because
I forgot.
you seem to be at home. So, okay, we're of course discussing the Muzaffarnagar and Jammu incidents and the kind of diverse response that each has received. I remember Asaduddin Owaisi wrote on Twitter about the Muzaffarnagar incident, and I asked him, I mean, what happened is terrible, but did you notice what happened to this girl a month ago in Jharkhand who was reprimanded and expelled for having a bindi? And did you even notice that? And then there was, of course, no reply. Subsequently, the incident in Jammu happened, and I've gone through his timeline, and there isn't a single word of condemnation for what happened to Jammu. So, I mean, a child based on his faith, and I'm just using him as an example. There are a lot of other people who have had a similar response, and it's very, very sad to see that just because the child's faith doesn't agree with your narrative, that child is not a child anymore and doesn't deserve your sympathy or your attention.
And if we point this out, as you're pointing out, Advaita, we are going to be accused of whataboutery. We are going to be accused of shameless, selective outrage behavior. And in fact, I remember I tweeted also saying that what happened in Muzaffarnagar was terrible, but equally terrible is what happened in Jammu, and we should be angry about both because both of them actually hit out at this whole idea about a very sacrosanct good relationship between a teacher and a student. So I suddenly got trolled as always, and saying that you should be ashamed of yourself. What are you talking about? How can you compare the two? But I wasn't comparing the two. I mean, what I was making is that why is it this now becoming so common and why is it going to be acceptable? I mean, if you're not going to accept what happens in Muzaffarnagar, and I certainly don't, I think it's terrible, it's outrageous. But I'm going to point out Jammu saying, look, it's happening there. And it's for me not a Hindu Muslim thing only. Something is going wrong. People are getting emboldened and thinking it's just the right thing to do. By the way, in Jammu, the two people have been suspended. In Muzaffarnagar, I also think the teacher by now should have been suspended. They put in sections 505, 506, which are extremely weak sections. I agree with all of that. But I don't think we should be selective in our outlook. The usual fact checkers, they're the ones who keep on giving us gyan on what political coverage is all about. It's not a question of being balanced. It's not a question of trying to be balanced. What I'm trying to say is that it's not okay here and it's not even okay there.
Yeah, and the kid in
Pallavi,
Jammu was admitted in hospital. So I mean, it was quite a severe thrashing. It's not something casual, and just because you bring it up doesn't necessarily mean that you diminish what happens anywhere else.
but Advaita, the point I was making earlier, I think, while these specific incidents have to be dealt with and dealt with in the strongest terms and in most severe terms, but I think there needs to be a much larger message going out to the entire teacher community or even the parents community that you
Yes.
cannot really let poison the minds of your kids or start bringing your beliefs, religious beliefs, value system in trying to, shape the minds of the children. And that's the bigger
Absolutely.
issue which these fact checkers won't do it. People like
Yes.
us who are close to the center, who speak maybe more in a balanced way,
I'm
we
not
have
close
to
to the
articulate.
yeah, I'm close to the center. But
Let
I'm
me let
not.
me tell you this. One minute.
I'm
The
going to
schools
log
that
out
some
and
of
log
us
in
went
from my
to
other.
were Jesuit schools. Okay. Did we say the Lord's Prayer? Yes, because we were asked to. But you could have kept quiet and just stood in the chapel or the church or the assembly. Did you get beaten up because you didn't say the Lord's Prayer? No.
No.
Did the Lord's Prayer at times was scribbled on the blackboard? Yes. Didn't make a big deal. See, the issue is not Jai Shri Ram. The issue, and here I want to say it. So some jokers on the timeline say, "Oh, but why hanging? Hanging is a metaphor." Obviously, we have so
Yes.
many idiots, passing comments that they don't even understand what metaphors are all about. The point is, teachers are far too valuable. They are the most valuable community in our country because they set the tonality in terms of education for our country. The teachers, to my mind, are the beacons of hope. If this incident is untrue, as some of you have alluded to, that, oh, it's not, it's being given a communal angle, then let there be a judicial inquiry or whatever inquiry. And people are told that, look, this is baloney. Let me also give you another fact. There is enough noise amongst the so called woke media, liberal media, leftist media, which will now play this up. Why do we not have a counter to that? That, look, this is what happened A, B, C, D, E. If the teacher is not wrong, exonerate. But look at the contradictions. A video is going out, and I'm glad that the government has instructed people not to. So a lot of people on Twitter said, "Oh, but that's censorship." Of course, it's censorship. If you are trying to use a viral video to incite hatred, it is the government's job to stop it. I have no issues with that. My issue is not even with Muzaffarnagar. My issue is there are certain places that are sacred, that are too sacred not to disallow this kind of nonsense from happening. Because if you allow this, there is no stopping you from anything else. I'm not even bothered about, this what about Jammu mein kya hua ye wo. My concern is very simple. This will again be played out on the front pages of all your international media. Now, a lot of the clowns on your comments think don't care because they have nothing to hide. Half these jokers are anonymous. What happens when the Prime Minister goes abroad again, as he will, as he must? Why are we continuously shooting ourselves in the foot for no rhyme or reason? And my advice to the government, whatever government, the UP government, or in this case, the Jammu and Kashmir Lieutenant Governor would be, that if this is the case, then please tell people that, this is exactly what happened. Am I a proud Hindu? I am, but I've been taught in my Hinduism not to berate another religion. I don't need to. I'm very confident about my faith. So I don't need a school teacher to vindicate my belief in my faith. If she writes Jai Shri Ram on the board, do I have an issue? I don't. Because tomorrow, if she even writes Allahu Akbar, I don't care. Because I'm very confident about my faith, about my religion. All I'm saying is there are places that must be devoid of any religious identification. I mean, let's go
It's
back into history. This is exactly what happened and destroyed society. We're in a damn good place. Let's not screw it up.
Yeah, go ahead,
it's
Sandeep.
like I think it's like the Hippocrates oath. Teachers must learn that there has to be some kind of a code of ethical code which may not be written, that they leave their religious belief outside the classrooms when they're getting in,
Hang on.
and that has to be the real code, and that message. I think rather than Yogi and everybody would be doing the right thing to take this particular teacher to task and investigate this particular, but the overall messaging, which like the PM is so good at, this has to go that teachers of whichever denomination they come from, whether they come in Catholic schools, Hindu schools, Muslim schools, or whatever Sikh school, they should be told that your religious belief is somewhere else. Your job is not to indoctrinate children in the classroom. So you have to
Yeah.
leave that aside and stick to what you're here for, to impart education, impart knowledge.
I just want to say one very quick thing. The B20, which is part of G20, and the leaders are going to come 8th, 9th, 10th. People like Biden and all are completely nut jobs right now. What if someone asks them a question? जो पूरा इंडिया का narrative है, that will again get skewed, not skewed, skewed. A, B. At this B20, which started day before yesterday and ended with the Prime Minister's address today, we have come across and are coming across as the finest country to do business in and business with. It was a matter of pride listening to Modi today. And I'm no bloody bhakt, I don't care. But what Modi delivered today was a message that India has arrived. These are the 8 things we've done. I'm not saying there will not be incidents. Of course, there'll be incidents. There will be problems in our country. But the point is, if the problem exists, then we must have a mechanism to deal with. Otherwise, the media vultures, some of them, will jump in. And they will start blaming Modi. See, the problem in India today is if your faucet runs dry or if your bulb fuses, you blame the Prime Minister. Now, I'm saying, why do you want a situation like this when it can easily be snuffed out either through an inquiry, or oblique an investigation, or a rejoinder which captures the facts A, B, C, D, E? Simple.
Well, I mean, the UP administration has taken cognizance and moved on this very fast. So I just want to put that in there. But Professor, I wanted to ask you this as well. There's this rapid narrative building that takes place the moment there is an incident like this. Okay, and this I'm going to compare Jammu, and I'm going to compare Muzaffarnagar, and I don't care if people think it's whataboutery, but we need to talk about the children because one ended up in hospital and one is been humiliated in a viral video which will live on forever. So it's as traumatic mentally and physically. So the thing was that with the Muzaffarnagar incident, it became completely a communal thing, right? And it was only spoken of in terms of the communal angle to it. Wherein now we are learning that the person actually shooting the video and he can be heard laughing as well. Some people are saying that he's related to the boy's family. I don't know if that's true or not. The entire village is a village of Tyagis. Some have converted, some have not, but they've all retained the same last name. but suddenly then there was a narrative of upper caste brutality. So the way this starts to spin and what it's made into is frankly very, very disturbing, because it just kind of fuels negativity and continues to do that way past what would be, like you said yourself, it's got more traction outside of these locations than anywhere else. At
Right.
least in the Jammu incident, one has not seen that narrative, that communal narrative, be, although it is as communal in that sense, being built around that particular incident.
Uh, in Jammu, I think the authorities, local authorities, acted very, very swiftly. The moment people came out in protest, I think action was very, very swift. Suspensions took place, FIR was lodged. That's one. In Muzaffarnagar, as you know, I again insist that the reaction on social media is far more different and qualitatively different than the reaction in
It's
that
more
particular
political.
locality. Yeah,
The reaction on Muzaffarnagar is political. The
yeah.
reaction on this place in Jammu is non-existent. And if it
Non-existent,
is,
but
then
but I would believe Jammu also wants it that way. But one thing you must remember, the persons who are interested in creating a narrative on Muzaffarnagar are also those kind of persons who are expert at propaganda. It is basically they still have the ecosystem, they know how to bounce off opinions with vis-a-vis one another, and therefore create a narrative which basically says, look, this in itself is not that important. It's the entire country that is burning. And why is it burning? It is burning because of Yogi and Modi. If you look at, I'm talking about quite a few thinkers, prominent ones, not anonymous handles. These are people who are well known. Some of them did not come out with their stance, stance earlier. Now they have. Everybody look, I would have been shocked earlier, but now knowing what I know, I am not shocked. This is baloney. I know that in rural India, many of my friends have said so. Teachers have uttered casteist feelings. Dalits used to be kept at the back, and prejudices were given free vent. This used to happen. There was no social media then to bring it out into the public. There is
Exactly.
social media. Yeah, there is social media now, and any shit that happens, you have a camera at hand, a smartphone at hand to record it and make it viral
And edit it.
and
And
edit
edit
it
it.
and edit it.
So
You
if
see,
it has
so the
been
question,
edited, the person who has done it, you can trace them electronically,
yeah,
catch that person. Because
yes,
he or she is inciting hatred.
yeah.
But the
So
point is, your silence is seen as complicit.
the
yeah.
usual suspects therefore are able to give it a spin, in a fantastic manner. Look, this is a video from Muzaffarnagar. For this to go this kind of viral, the bouncing that it has taken place is clear that the usual suspects are at it again. But this is something that you have to live with. Time and time again, I think Suhel has said it, I have said it. The government's narrative, the government's messaging on this has been poor. Of course, this was, of course, you had to do something because this happened instantaneously. But coming down with facts, this is what happened. These are the facts of the case. This should have happened earlier. Now it is happening. People are talking about the facts on the case, but it is not so much the government, it is some other people who are close to the ground who are basically coming out with this. The crisp messaging from the government, which basically could have shown what it really is, always comes late, by which time such a lot of bad blood has been created that even people who would like to believe in you get pissed off by this entire thing, saying this should not have happened. But I have to reiterate what Sandeep Ghosh and Suhel said. These educational institutions, in a sense, have to be insulated from this kind of a nonsense. I have my political feelings. I never talk about them in class. Sometimes I try to lead a mature discussion, but this is something I don't do. Now, let me come back to a point you said made, that Jai Shri Ram being, why should it be a provocative slogan? Look, if the boy had possibly written Om Namo Shivaya, it would have had a different kind of reaction. Or had he written Radhe Radhe, it should have had a different reaction. Jai Sri Ram is not Jai Siya Ram. It has a political connotation. Let's agree to that.
No,
And
depends on the
when,
lens.
huh?
Depends on the lens. I think it
Of course, it
depends on the
depends on the
lens.
lens.
You're
I
buying into that by saying it has a political
No, no, no.
connotation. You're
It has,
buying
it has,
into
it has, it
the
has, it has.
labeling. It may for
Look,
some people,
see,
it may
so,
for some people, but that
yeah,
does not necessarily mean that is the
yes, but a class
accepted
10 student, class
version
10
of the.
student, a class 10 student writing that on his on the board blackboard of his class does not have religious feelings while writing it. Is probably expecting a rise. Now, as I repeat, the teacher was completely at fault to infect corporal student and the boy and the principal too, and that is why action has been taken against them. There will be action. See, they will have to pay for this. But again, I mentioned Jammu is not a place where students write this kind of thing on the classroom. But I tell you this, what I'm afraid of was the following. Somewhere down the line, in some region of Kashmir, somebody writes something in Arabic, and a teacher, Hindu teacher, comes again and doesn't understand it, starts to wipe the board, and it turns out that you've basically wiped off a religious slogan, and there it starts. Look, as far as I have been able to make out, at least in the educational institutions, there has been sort of an understanding, especially in populations with mixed religions, mixed populations, that this sort of a thing is not done. People don't do this. The atmosphere in the schools is one of incredible collegiality. What happened in Bunny was an exception, and I hope it does not happen again. The classroom is the teacher's property. It is the teacher who writes on the classroom until he asks the student to use the blackboard. Till such a time, it is the preserve of the teacher. Let it remain so. You know,
Yeah, and I think the other
so
thing also that comes to light from this situation, especially in the UP case, is this institute was being run out of her home,
yeah,
and that really has to be questioned. Exactly why was this being run out of her home? Does she have all the permissions in place?
That's
So
irrelevant.
the
that's
no,
That
that
is
irrelevant.
is
that,
relevant.
that is
No,
irrelevant stuff.
that is relevant.
This government should have declared governor's president's rule in Bengal. Did they do it? No. When people were being massacred. So let me tell you, the state has actually capitulated when it feels like. I've said this on your program. If I'm a Hindu, which I am, or you're whatever you are, A, you don't need to be apologetic, but B, you cannot use your faith or your religion to browbeat anyone else. Then you'll do exactly what they want you to do. And third, let me tell you, this liberal media, so called liberal media, has been bloody shown out for who they are. So no one gives a toss. But what they do get is they get a lot of space. Now, some
Yes.
of the clowns who say, oh, but who cares about the USA narrative? Bhai, जाते तो आप वहीं हो ना पैसा लाने. So this stupid argument that, oh, we don't care about what the world thinks of us, of course we do. When Modi travels abroad, why does he meet the NRIs in the diaspora? To make them feel proud that they are Indians and contributing to that country. So these arguments are stupid. Rasik Sani, one of the persons on your comments thing says, instead of a postmortem, what is the solution? I have a three-part solution. Number one, schools must be forbidden from any proactive religious segregation or religious teaching. Number one, unless it's a madrasa, which I don't know what the hell they do.
Yeah, but
Number
why the exception, Sohail? Why the
because
exception?
they're madrasa, then shut them down. I'm all in favor.
So then
They were
exactly,
the
if
ones
you're
who were
looking
getting
at the
terror
secular
funding from
education,
Saudi Arabia. No, no, one
no,
way.
if you're
Don't put this on me. Madrasas didn't start with me, they won't end with me. I'm like 60, I'd be dead and gone. Second, teachers must go through, to my mind, some level of counseling or teacher training in areas that are prone for this kind of division. But the third is the most critical. The response time to any incendiary or hate narrative from the government must be twofold. Arrest the person who has done the edit or spread an incorrect viral video. And number two, if the act has been committed, make sure that there is an investigation and a counter riposte to these are the things that happened. Otherwise, you'll never, things won't work. And let me tell you, Advaita, none of us are going to be around for that long. I'm only going to say one thing. You may have whatever political agenda, non-political agenda, blah, blah, blah. Don't drag fertile, formative minds into this
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah.
These young children have so much of life ahead where they can contribute positively to this country's development, to their community, to their society. Let them focus on that. आप अपने झगड़ों में, आप अपनी hatred में, this cauldron of hatred, why are you putting them into it? They didn't ask for it, and they shouldn't be subjected to it.
Absolutely,
Here,
Sandeep.
coming back,
Sandeep, you're as much a part of the problem. If you decide to take a partisan position on situations like this and say, "Oh, this is whataboutery," "Oh, why are you bringing this up?" I mean, children are children. Whoever's child they may be, it could be a Muslim's child, it could be a Hindu's child, a Christian, Sikh,
absolutely,
whatever. A child is a child.
Absolutely.
so it has to be, there the response has to be totally secular, as you're saying. It doesn't have to be, it's irrespective of which religion, which kind of indoctrination people are doing. As Suhel says, that I don't know whether there has to be a counseling kind of a thing like you do everywhere, but there has to be also some kind of a basic code of conduct which the CBSE and the ICSE and other people should circulate, or even the state board, so that people are at least there is a norm against which some people will try to follow, or they can be pulled up. But coming back to our favorite topic, Advaita, on the government's response, this government needs an SOP. Its critics, the woke people or whosoever you say, the fact checkers, they have a clear SOP. As soon as something happens, how they are going to amplify it, how they're going to take it forward, how they're going to involve others. The government must also have an SOP as to how to react. It just can't silence is no policy. You can say no decision is also a decision, but silence is not a policy in today's world. As we know in media, once upon a time you could say no comment and get away, but no comment is no longer a no comment; it's a comment by itself. And that is, I don't know why this government is not getting it. Suhel says about B20. It strikes me there are so many fora where people coming individually, they will say, "Oh, India is in a great place. This is India's century, etc." But the next moment, when Narendra Modi says something, they will pull him down. Say that, "Oh, he is actually," as if it's happening not only despite him, but as if he's somebody who's trying to prevent it. So, if the B20 speech is analyzed, if you see on Twitter, etc., I'm quite sure you will get all kinds of darts thrown at him, all kinds of holes picked, etc. And people are not going to give credit, just like it's happening on the Chandrayaan issue, which I thought is something, again, you'd like to discuss. This beats me totally. This kind of, steep hatred for one man, which today makes us even discount a national achievement, a moment of pride, just because you're hating one person. You want to take it away from the nation and the people of India, because you think, Narendra Modi is getting the credit for it.
Yeah, and now let's close this out and let's move on now to Chandrayaan, which has been pretty amazing. The Prime Minister immediately on his return from Greece flew down directly to Bangalore and felicitated all the scientists. It was quite lovely to watch. Of course, gave a beautiful speech. Was extremely emotional while delivering that speech, and one can imagine why, because when Chandrayaan 2 had that happen to it, and we all were watching then as well, and the Prime Minister was there, he actually embraced the ISRO chief at that point of
Yeah.
time and encouraged him
So,
to carry on. So
yeah,
he's
yeah,
been
we all
very
know
much
it.
to that journey. So,
Yes.
Suhel, just wait, yeah. So, Pallavi, has the fight, political fight, intensified, or have they thrown in the towel now and said, okay, the Prime Minister is going to get credit for this. Let's move on.
They haven't. The fight hasn't ended because I can see the Congress's social media team going very ballistic about Chandrayaan, and also the fact that Jawaharlal Nehru had begun it and so on and so forth. In fact, even as we speak, the Congress has already released a little kind of a campaign saying that if Modi was the Prime Minister when we played the T20 or the World Cup, then what would he have done? And then, they kind of make fun of him and so on and so forth. In fact, something as simple as not being able to open a water bottle while he was there with the bricks, that has also been kind of become a huge meme and a campaign of the Congress party. That come on, Suhel.
Nothing.
I think
I'm
it's
just yawning
fun.
because it's going on and on and on and on and on.
I've
Actually,
just started talking.
The art of
I
phrase
just started
keeping has been
talking.
lost in this country.
uh,
Come to your point.
What has been lost?
uh,
A, B, C, D. What is it?
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, really. So I've forgotten what I wanted to say.
About opening water bottles, yeah.
well, she
Yeah.
comes late.
Yeah.
And she
So the
cannot
Yeah.
campaign which has
Let
come in
me.
that he's trying to open a water bottle in bricks, but he's not able to open it. But he opens up the floodgates for the corporates
But this
so
is where I
easily.
think BJP is losing the plot because there was such a
Can I say
beautiful
something?
moment. 1 minute, Suhail. There was such a beautiful moment in the BRICS summit where the Prime Minister walks on stage, and it seems that they had put position
That kind
flags with
the
flags,
Tiranga.
and the Tiranga was on the
Yeah.
ground. He bent down and picked it up and put it in his pocket. And then the gentleman with him, I guess the South African president or prime minister, I'm not certain who he was,
The
noticed what he
president
was doing
Cyril
and then sort of
Ramaphosa
said,
coming to the.
"Oh, I'm going to pick it."
Yeah, yeah, South African
But
president.
then why does the BJP not make something like that viral? I think that's so significant as opposed to some water bottle not being opened.
That is a stupid thing. Both Pallavi and you are talking about pride stuff.
Well,
Stay clear.
Congress is saying
Hey,
I
listen,
smartened
Listen,
up
you're
us.
the Congress
Congress is
spokesperson here,
smart.
and we don't give a toss about the Congress. So here's what's happened. Chandrayaan 3 is a signal of three things for India.
He won't let us
Number
talk.
one,
Yeah, he just
science
wants to
is
hear your
back
voice.
at the top of the table. Number two, Prime Minister Modi led from the front when he said that failure doesn't mean the end of the game, and he infused those scientists with fortitude when they had failed. The third, it is the greatest thing that's happened because on August 23, between 5:30 and 6:10 p.m., every child in India, no matter which class, which community, which station in life they were inspired. To my mind, this has been Modi's most dramatic moment. Not because we landed a, a spacecraft on the moon, but because we inspired every Indian, regardless of caste, creed, color, that science is now at the top of the table, that we have got what we have deserved. We have done it indigenously. The scientists, people actually, I have to say, by large parts are stupid in their commentary, including the journalists. Oh, Modi went there. What a good thing. He went to Bangalore. You don't understand what Modi's doing. He's telling scientists how valuable they are to the future and the development of India. That's what he's saying. The rest is surround sound for mobile journalists to keep writing about. Understand where that man is coming from. When he consoled the former ISRO chief, it wasn't the consoling of a prime minister to the head of ISRO. It is from one human being to the other, saying, "Theek hai, we'll continue to strive." That messaging, I'm afraid, even the BJP could not deliver. They are also papoos in some respect, in the sense, oh, Prime Minister has diverted his plane. Then the joke became, oh, why did he not go to Manipur? Because we have stupid people, as I said. But what was the rationale that Narendra Damodar Das Modi had? It was to tell people across the world that here is the Prime Minister of India, whose first port of call when he returns home from an exhausting trip is to felicitate, which she said felicitate the scientists of our country. That, to my mind, is the biggest thing that happened at Vaida. And for that
Thank you.
and that
Thank
alone,
you for noticing. We were all missing. Yeah.
we need to salute Modi. But more importantly, we need to salute every scientist. Every child tomorrow will embrace science like they've never embraced before. That is the
I
beauty
think
of it.
And making 23rd, August the National Space Day, I think again it
Brilliant.
is an absolute brilliant thing. Having a quiz contest made on space, national quiz contest, that is exactly the kind of thing as well as it will spur. And BJP, as he says, I think Modi is far ahead of BJP also. There was one
Yeah.
channel showed how Modi in after the on the day of Chandrayaan 1, how he went to the ISRO center in Ahmedabad and how he congratulated the scientists and then said, I would like to give you have a dinner in your honor, all of you. Please come, Ek Sham Aapke Naam. And it was such an inspiring speech. At that point in time, he was not a prime minister. I think he was just Gujarat chief minister. He had no national, ambition or stature at that point in time, but he did it. So that's the man. And BJP can't play up one. I saw one YouTube channel, playing up that speech. That is Narendra Modi, and that I don't know why BJP has not been able to really capitalize on and leave it ultimately only to the man to talk
To
for
do all the
himself.
heavy lifting.
Yeah.
And frankly, I think
Uh,
like he's overworked. I really think he's overworked. It's crazy the kind of schedule he keeps.
Advaita, one point.
Go ahead.
You see, the event itself was so important that I don't think BJP could have bettered it. They could have only made it worse. The magnitude of this event is sufficient for to give BJP and Modi a massive push. And you see, as Soel pointed out, everybody from that period, 5:30 to 6:10, were glued in front of the television sets or on the front of the computer scenes. They did not, the BJP didn't ask people to basically tune in. They wanted to know. National pride at stake. Everybody had their hearts in their mouths. When something of that magnitude happens, I don't want BJP spokesperson to spoil it by giving it their own spin. They can spoil it. What the Congress did, you say you're talking about Congress getting ahead. What the Congress did by making those comments was to show themselves as petty. Nothing more. You see, a day of
Graceless,
great
graceless
achievement,
kind.
graceless. A day of such great achievement, and then you start passing off these memes. You don't congratulate so much the ISRO scientists as Jawaharlal Nehru. You see, and when you finally do, there is so little grace in your congratulations that it seems irrelevant. Look, the Congress did not steal a march over the BJP on this issue. If they stole a march, they walked in the reverse direction. Number one. Number two, look at the international response. You see, if you look at the United States, positive, Germany, positive, France, positive, the United Kingdom, negative. And I'll tell you where that comes from. United Kingdom has chosen mediocrity. There is no grand scientific project the United Kingdom right now is involved in. The French have their space program still in French Guyana. The United Kingdom's fall from the towering heights of science to their present level has been dramatic. And it is this mediocrity which basically forces them to say things that they did on the Indian space program. So, all this, you guys don't have toilets. Why are you in space? I mean, even if you did a minor cost benefit analysis, our space program costs us so little. We spend actually very little on our space program compared to what the Americans and the others do. Because one of the reasons we've reverse engineered a lot of things, that's another matter. If you look at the benefits we've gotten from our space program, the weather satellites alone, by giving the kind of information they do to our farmers, what to do, what not to do, what our fishermen, that itself will much pay is several times the cost of our space program. I'm not talking
That
about our commercial satellites.
Yeah, that's precisely. Sorry to interrupt, doctor. That is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Modi had to spell all these things out during his speech. Those are the things BJP needs to articulate, not say his achievement, etc. These people have to hear it from Modi, and then realize what is being done on the minor satellite, what is being done on the whole host of this Gati Shakti and everywhere, how we are utilizing our space program to geotag things, even the toilets and everything else. Now, Modi explains, but this has to get articulated and amplified by others as well. I don't
Others
think
as
even the
well.
government does it.
See, what is important is the following. With Chandrayaan, what has happened is those who have criticized it, both within the country and without, have shown themselves to be basically below it. Today, when it comes to space exploration, when it comes to information technology, we are ahead of the United Kingdom at this point in time, period. That itself is a great milestone. It would have happened anyway, but August 23rd, in a sense, marks the definite date where we are ahead of the United Kingdom on a host of issues. And as a scientific power, therefore, this is symbolic. As a scientific power, I would consider ourselves at this point in time ahead of the United Kingdom, which is one of the Super Five Security Council seats. So, this is important. It's important.
Suhel, why do you think the Brits were like so peeved by it?
See, remember one thing. India, for the last 8, 9, maybe 10 years, has attracted a lot of envy because they can't figure out how has this country, which they labeled at one time a nation of shopkeepers, to at another time to elephants and snake charmers, is now doing this kind of stuff. But remember, the caravan doesn't stop for every barking dog. The caravan moves on. We should not even give these jokers any responses. Some stupid idiot has said something. Oh, but what about the toilet? अरे भाई इंग्लैंड में क्या है? England may forget toilets. People don't have their organs left anymore, yeah, because everyone is stealing everything. So, I mean, it's ridiculous. And I have to say, our media, including the facilitator of great cerebral heft, who's on our panel, Miss Ghosh, they should be doing these programs, but they're also doing the same cookie cutter stuff. Oh, Prime Minister is going there, Prime Minister there. Has she done a program on how many children in rural India have been inspired? No, because the channels are also all cookie cutter. They will show one, they
No,
will do one
we
comment,
do.
one
You
little
don't
child
read our
said, yeah, one
stories.
minute,
No,
hear
no,
me
no.
out, hear me out.
So, Hale, we
Point.
should read our story.
See, now this is the problem. It's clear in what she's saying with a single. My point is, I am
Let's do a
You
delighted.
know,
verse.
it's raining
I'm
outside. There's a
delighted that
thunderstorm
India
outside.
has done what it has with alacrity, with firmness, with a lot of grit and fortitude. That's what India is about, which these guys can't stomach. So, you know what we would do otherwise? You can't stomach it, walk away. Remember one
Let's talk
thing,
about the
Advaita,
firecrackers in
and your
Bengal.
name was just spelled like a South Indian with a THA. I'm a great believer that India is in a very fine place. My only grouse is that the narrative cannot be polluted. There will be incidents, whatever the incidents are. As far as the Congress is concerned, it's pretty much done. Now, people say, oh, how can you predict Congress is done? I'll tell you why. When you become graceless, that's who you become. Great
Let's
statesman
talk about
behavior
the
is about
firecrackers in
accepting
Bengal.
what someone else is saying. It's not about constant criticism. The tragedy is the Congress has become a crybaby. C for Congress, C for crybaby. They find fault in everything. When I was growing up
You
in
say all
Calcutta, we
this, and
used to
I get
say
trolled,
there are some people in the world who have a problem for every solution. That's what the Congress is. You give them a solution, they'll have a problem. So I wouldn't even bother about the Congress. Having said that, I think we need to celebrate India. We need to celebrate Chandrayaan. But most importantly, we need to celebrate those amazing scientists. I don't know. The Nobel Prize Committee does it.
Suhel,
I don't know if India has
can I
ever done
say
it.
something?
If I were
May
the
I?
Prime Minister, I would give the Bharat Ratna to ISRO. And the proceeds would go to fund
Maybe they
science
do.
in rural. This is what I'm saying. When you have interruptions of a cerebral disorder like we've just seen, there's no point having a seminal, serious debate.
Okay, can we also talk
As
about
far
something
as
very serious? I'm not joking. That firecracker in Bengal, yeah, that's your home state, Suhel.
yes, so what
It's
about it?
worrying. The governor's rushing there to a spot. Apparently, there's been lots of
You see,
firecrackers and
Advaita,
people.
I want to end because we are running short of time. This is what I mean by the absolute denial of any intellectual heft in some of our media. We're discussing the celebration of Chandrayaan.
We
I'm
have
talking about
discussed
hear
it.
me out.
We've
I'm talking about the India
congratulated
we want
them.
to build. What is her grouse? Oh, Governor of Bengal is rushing. Listen, Pallavi, let me rephrase your life for you. This is not a current affairs on the news ticker program. Here we're having discussions on issues. We're not interested.
She's
We
really.
also all have Twitter. The governor's going. We don't want a minute by minute
No, no.
commentary. We
I'm
want
talking about the firecracker issue in
Uh,
Bengal. It's
Pallavi, one
serious.
second. Pallavi,
who gives
on a
a
more
fire about it. Yeah.
Pallavi, let something so serious. When you look at the photographs of the ISRO scientists and engineers, have you noticed how reflective they are of Indian society? They look at their dress, how they dress up, how they come across, how reflective they are of Indian society. There may be a regional concentration, bulk of them may come from 2 or 3 southern states. But when I look at them, what I see is India. This is by no means an ivory tower institution. If you look at their cultural practices, remember, before the mission, they went to Tirupati and they were trolled for it. Is this science or what? Is the question that many in the Congress, by the way, asked. They went nonetheless because they wear their culture on the sleeve. I don't say religion, they wear their culture, their habits on the sleeve. They went to Tirupati. And you had the usual suspects asking, what is this? What science is this? They went, they succeeded. When I look at them, I think I see many of my relatives out there. No, at least they could have been my relatives. That is something that is so reflective of the Indian ethos and Indian culture. That is what ISRO is. It is not an ivory tower institution, completely westernized, Macaulayized. No,
Yes,
it
it's
is not.
finished. It's over.
They are scientists, but they are Indians. That is basically what is so heartening about ISRO scientists and the technicians. By the way, very few of them come from IITs and NITs, by the way. They come from normal universities, colleges, and Indian engineering colleges, most of them.
That's great. That's great. That's really great. And on that note, I think we should call it a wrap. I just saw on Twitter that Minister Anurag Thakur has said we're getting ready to land on the sun. So,
No, no, 1 minute. No, 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 no. He said we will launch a solar program. To which the
uh,
Congress said, "How can you land on the sun?"
Oh
There is
dear.
stupidity. Remember, everyone says artificial intelligence. I'm worried. What will you do with native stupidity?
Yes.
Have a good evening, Pallavi.
everybody have a great time. Pallavi, you want to say
Thank you.
anything else? What is the political gupshup we have to look
No, no,
forward
no.
to?
I can
In
only say Suhel has been fabulously sweet and nice to me, and I go away from the show feeling that he really loves me and respects me. I क्या मैं बोलूं उसको? I'm
and
अरे
the
ये तो
thing
बहुत
why Suhail was alone on screen, people are asking, is because he doesn't need anyone else. He was on a tangent today. He was just talking non-stop and he didn't even notice we were not there.
yeah.
But
He
Pallavi,
was like
tell
Sandeep
us about
Ghosh today.
Yeah.
what about Sandeep Ghosh? Yeah, Sandeep Ghosh was here.
Ek to
Uh,
Sandeep is so touchy, he's very chewy boy. You say anything to him, and he's constantly cribbing, becoming like a Congress party. See, again, I'm going to be trolled for this. Cribbing, complaining, touchy.
Oh, I love that.
no,
I
but
must tweet that
I don't
Pallavi is
mock.
going to bring up the
I don't
trolls.
mock people like Congress does, or I'm not disparaging. I
You
don't have that.
also mock.
I don't mock in that manner. Yes. Anyway, Pallavi, tell us about the firecrackers
Yeah.
The
quickly.
show, no. So in Bengal, over the last 3 days, there have been firecracker factories. Apparently, some of them are illegal, where there have been firecrackers being burst. So this has now become quite a few people have died. 10 or 11 people have died, and now it's an all-out political war. Where the Congress, for whatever they are, the BJP, of course, blaming the TMC government. Their illegal factories being nurtured, and now the governor has just landed and he's rushing straight from the airport to these factories.
Yeah. But there's no like bomb or terror kind of angle, right? I haven't tracked
Pata
this
nahi.
news. multitasking.
These are not firecrackers. This is what doctor will
Local bombs.
explain. But these kind of rushing to the firecracker factories are not going to solve this. This is far more fundamental, and I don't think BJP or anybody has a solution to, uh, you know, solving this.
Well, we'll keep an eye on
Thanks,
this. Let's see what
Joy.
happens.
Thank you, Joy.
Thank you, everybody,
Thank
for
you.
watching.
Thank
Do
you so
remember
much.
to like, subscribe, share this video, and we'll be
And
back
then
soon.
Sandeep is coming soon to Delhi, and he's promised us lunch/dinner. Professor,
And
you
how's
can
it
have it virtually.
No, Professor will come down for it.
Yeah, why
I
not?
don't know.
I will come
Professor,
down
why
for it.
don't you come down
course.
here? Why don't you
I
come
do
down for a
come down.
meal with
I do
us?
come to Delhi from time to time, but unfortunately, it's on
No,
official visit.
let's plan it. This is
Unfortunately,
absolutely
since he got married, he's not allowed to leave home without permission.
no.
हाँ,
Anyway,
आज उसको
That's not
breakfast
true.
dinner बनाना होता है ना.
That's not true.
anyway, this she can.
Why are you looking over your shoulder, Professor?
She's standing
No,
there.
you please come.
Discretion
This
is a better part of valor.
a promise on live YouTube. That I will stand by it. Okay, I'll redeem the
Oh,
promise.
God, he's so boring,
Sure.
even the way he talks now. Okay.
Yeah.
Just
Where are you?
come,
So
here,
you got
come here and take us out, and we'll be very interested in what you have to say. Always.
That is
before the
what-
8th, because 7 to 10th, everything is going to be stuck, and I'm going to be busy with the G20
Why before the
summit.
8th? It can be after the 8th also. No, after the whole thing is done.
8 to 10th, it'll be very.
After that, I'll come.
She's frozen.
You
Yeah, I
you
think
got
7th
two very important people's birthday on September 17th. We can celebrate it there.
we know. All right. So we are counting
All
down to
right.
Prime Minister Modi and Sandeep Ghosh's birthday on the 17th of September, and going to get nice big lunch or dinner from him at a fancy restaurant. We'll keep you posted. But thank you, everybody, for watching, and do like, share, subscribe, and we will see you again soon. Bye for now.
That's the deal. Bye.
Bye.